No.
You know how most of the time there's like a house next to a house next to a house, and then there's like a business next to a business next to a business? In Houston, it's just a free-for-all. It's just this is like a gun store next to a porn shop, next to a school, next to a house. It's craziness.
I'm glad we're starting there.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And it wasn't me this time.
Always me.
I got to be the good girl for once.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Magic Mics, proudly sponsored by our Patreon supporters and CoolStuffInc.com, where you can find cool stuff in stock every day, and our co-sponsor, CardHoarder.com, offering the best inventory prices and delivery of cards for Magic Online. I am Evan Irwin, and we get started each week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, Aaron Campbell.
Hello, Governor.
Ruben Bressler.
I got more to say about Houston, so
man,
we got plenty to get to. Get on with the show.
Got so much. We usually get started with some trumpet blasts. You can get one of your own if you support us at the highest level of Patreon. That said, we don't have one to this week, but we're going to kick it off with the first pick and the giveaway. The giveaway link I sent in Twitch earlier. Ruben, if you could help me get it to where it needs to go, it'll be tweeted out on the Magic Mics Cast Twitter account on 10 minutes after. So you can find it there too. We're giving away a Second Sun Control Challenger deck because Aaron notes that A, the deck is sweet, and B, Standard isn't a hot garbage fire anymore.
No, I've actually been streaming Standard the last couple of times I streamed. I think I streamed it twice in the last week, and I've been really pleasantly surprised by how fun Standard is. And this deck in particular is extremely powerful. You can go back and watch the video archive of me playing this deck and going 3-0, not knowing the format or anything. I'm not really a fan of interaction. And so if you're like me and you also don't value interaction, then Approach of the Second Sun is perfect. It's one of those decks where people will often scoop after even the first approach, and you're just like, okay, this is fine. And the deck is a lot of fun, and if this keeps up, I will most likely be buying this deck when it comes out in a couple weeks.
Shout out to the Young Mage as well, who Young Mage and Papa Mage were testing these decks on their stream, so go back and check out the replays over there.
My friend Kendra has been as well. She's also been streaming them, and she's also been pleasantly surprised with how competitive they are, and so I expect them to be a really big hit.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's our giveaway. And, it was great that, after we had to be off last week because I was in Reno for Gamma, that they didn't accidentally spoil half the whole set, right? Because that would be ridiculous. That would be insane.
Evan, I got
No, it wouldn't be like most of the rares either, like all the Planeswalkers and new mechanics.
You should stop that for a second, because that's exactly what happened.
Wow.
12 hours, less than 12 hours after our show.
Less than 12 hours. There was a Chinese FAQ that went up. There was a fervor amongst fervors. People were freaking out, putting it in paste-it bins because they were, sure it was going to get shut down, or trying to figure out what it means. And the Chinese translations of all these cards were super weird. And Wizards comes out and basically says, this is awkward. And they basically, this case, we messed up and inadvertently let this out the door. Wow, that's a heck of a we messed up, y'all. Luckily, the set looks fantastic. That's right. That's the good part. The good part is all this is really sweet, because if it had leaked and it was crap and those were most of the rares, it would have been a hard time for everybody involved.
Well, that happened with Ixalan, right? Like there was the Ixalan leak of the foil sheet, and people were like, I'm not so sure about this set.
Now, originally they said, we are going, next week it's party time. It's Dominaria. We're going to blow it out. And then Masters 25 comes out this week, and maybe we don't want it to suck. So maybe we shouldn't run it over with Dominaria news.
I got some behind the scenes tea on that. I'm not naming any names in what I'm about to say. But I heard that the reason they had to backpedal a little bit is because not everybody was consulted in the decision to go forward with spoiler season a week early.
I had heard that. Yes.
So because they didn't dot all their I's and cross their T's, they had to wind it back a little bit and make sure that all parties involved were okay with this decision.
Right.
Yeah, all parties being the boss man was like, "What are you doing?" What? Hello? Does anybody in this building remember Iconic Masters? Do you remember Iconic Masters? Masters 25 has just had this, this really clear, hype, and Tree of Redemption. It's just,
the Tree of Redemption, first of all, the Tree of Redemption part of the story is a little frustrating. But that is one card, one mythic, in an otherwise interesting set that I think people are more hyped about M25 than they were, for example, about Iconic Masters. Now that's a low bar.
That bar is
but
low.
it is the set that came out right before this on the same scale, or on the same motif. So and I had the opportunity in Phoenix to play in a Modern Masters sealed event with our good buddy Adrian. We both played some Modern Masters and ended up playing in the last round, which was kind of cool. It's an interesting sealed format. The cards are fun, and a lot of cards got printed that people really wanted and needed copies of. Things like Rishadan Port. The Imperial Recruiter price drop is a little awkward, but people like Seth, better known as Sapphire and Olive, had discussed that this was a $30 card hiding behind a $200 price tag before, and so it wasn't that surprising when it dropped down to 30 or 40 or whatever.
Wow. I have to say, though, I've been really impressed with the creativity. There have been a lot of stores that have been doing things with Tree of Redemption, and just sort of coming up with these offers and these deals and these promos, and I think that's really cool, sort of taking lemons, and turning them into lemonade.
Right. The Tree of Redemption program.
Yeah, I think that's very nifty. Reddit's been blowing up with all sorts of these promos.
Yeah.
I mean, we're currently about $50 for the Imperial Recruiter. That thing is going downward, and it's not going upward. Let's just put it that way.
No, of course, but it was a $200 card, and I don't think you want to have any card that sees any real competitive play in non-vintage formats, non-eternal formats. That is that expensive for a card that is typically a playset kind of card. This is the problem with dual lands, for example.
There was another nifty byproduct of M25 coming on, specifically on Magic Online. So shortly after M25 was unlocked, if you will, there was a weird bug where ley lines were causing the game to reset. Yeah. And there are no ley lines in M25. But yeah, people were reporting. I have a friend who was a Bogles player, and she's like, yeah, I tried playing a turn 0 ley line, and the game just locked. And then I guess it happened with Ley Line of the Void, too. And there were just some interesting snags with the M25 release that I was very entertained by.
Well, I mean, touching on that, again, before we get to what I could still consider the first pick, the Masters 25, suddenly there's a video, and Rudy's like, look, I basically opened the same box twice. That's a problem. Everyone's freaking out. Yeah. First of all, why are we opening Progd on Tuesday? But whatever. Just going to throw it out. And, I can tell you, having access to data, like actual factual, not sensationalistic BS, like actual data of tracking what was happening, yes, there is a possibility for boxes to be very much alike. That's just how that printing process works. I was very skeptical of that video when I first saw it, but I've seen at least, I think, 2 other sources that said that something like half of their box was the same. Ooh. So it's above the deviation for the mean, but still very, very, very low percentage chance. Ultimately, the data that I saw from like actual cases was not alarming. I agree that I think it's a little bit higher on the percentage than your average bear. And you see it a lot more, and you notice a lot more because these packs are a lot more expensive. You're going to pay a hell of a lot more of attention to this than, a small standard set or whatever. But like ultimately, yes, you can find boxes that are very much alike, and yes, I think that this was very silly and kind of sensational in many aspects.
Right.
But we're not quite to like everything's mappable and you can't buy a loose pack, whatever.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
It's just some of the boxes, there's statistical anomalies. People hit blackjack 5 times in a row. People hit double zeros, twice in roulette. Like
it's possible. I live my life in casinos. I see low odds things happen every day. It is possible to have one player have a straight flush higher than another player. It's very, very, very unlikely, and it's even more unlikely that it's going to happen live on camera.
Right.
So take all that with a big old grain of salt. But it is possible, and it looks like it may have happened. So I'm not totally off of that train. And if I'm not totally off that train, that means we still got these quality control issues. That is like
we really do.
Even 0.0001% of the time, unacceptable.
It's this whole thing, and again, Wizards not being able to acknowledge it because then they would be selling defective product and know they're selling defective product, which could have legal liabilities attached to it. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. It's just what sounds reasonable as like why Wizards will not say a word about it. And the fact that they were hiring somebody to work on print quality issues, that's an encouraging step. That's a good thing. But we have to get to the real first pick this week, and the first pick this week is with a rocket. They have a new promo program. You know, Dominaria is bringing us that sweet nostalgia. So let's bring back some really dumb crap from the 90s, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, like Nalith and Lanley Dragon and Arena and other
I
cards.
thought you meant Heirloom Minotaurs.
Oh, that too.
Right, that as well.
Yes, Minotaur people as well.
There is a buy a box promo where if you pre-order a booster box of Dominaria from your local store, you will get a card, a special promo that is not anywhere else to be found, not in booster packs, not in bundles, not in any store outside of the Wizards Play Network. Based on your WPN level is how many of these promos you're going to get. So the bigger the store, the more the promos. It is a promo for Firesong and Sunspeaker. It is a red, white, and 4 generic mana 4/6 rare legendary Minotaur cleric. Red instant and sorcery spells you control have lifelink. Whenever a white instant or sorcery spell causes you to gain life, Firesong and Sunspeaker deals 3 damage to target creature or player. So your lightning helixes essentially get doubled, as it were. Which is terrific.
Which is pretty sweet.
And there's a lot of people, particularly casual players I know, who are super excited about this thing, and it sounded awesome. And we knew about this thing thanks to the FAQ leak, which was also a little strange, because we are now finding that this is the only way you can get this card.
Right.
If
you look down in that lower left-hand corner, it's 280 out of 269.
Right,
which is more cards than there are in the set.
Well, because the Planeswalker decks fill out the rest of those numbers.
Fill out 70 through 79,
yes.
And then this will be 80.
Exactly. So that's fine. But like, first of all, there's a few things about this. I think there's a few different aspects. From Wizards' point of view, I think the road in the best intentions that they're riding on were this will get store sales. This will get sales into local Magic stores. I want to go buy a box now, maybe I could just do some drafts, but now it's like, you know what, if I get that promo, which is going to be worth money for some good amount of time, I'm in. And that's sweet. That's good for your local game store to be able to have the money to keep on being a local game store. That's really cool.
Yeah.
To essentially resurrect a program from the 90s where, you don't have to cut out a thing in the back of a book and send off to get a Mana Crypt, and literally they had Mana Crypt back in those days as the promo. That's not quite the extreme that we're at. It's basically saying, hey, back in the day we kind of may have screwed it up, and literally wrote an article about the 20 things that were supposed to kill Magic. Number 4 being Nalothni Dragon.
Yeah, Nalothni Dragon, which was for Dragon Con in Atlanta or whatever.
To quote Mark Rosewater, while many players were irritated by the book promos, the Nalothni Dragon.
While many players were irritated by the. Sorry, I don't have the text. I don't have the text in front of me.
That's
so I was
unfortunate.
Just copying what you were gonna.
That is definitely unfortunate.
I knew that the folks were gonna,
You had to be at a convention in order to get that card. So there's literally one spot on the earth you had to be in order to get that card. That was a serious problem. The players made such a stink that Wizards decided to stop producing mechanically unique cards outside of booster packs. You can keep the reserve list for 1,000,000 years. But you say something like, wow, that was kind of dumb. And you're like, no, maybe we should go try that one again. We should try that one out. Because it drives sales to stores. I understand that. Like, this is just one of those things, much like double dipping into master sets, where Wizards has gotten, really clear. They are a subsidiary of Hasbro, and we're here for the dollars, ladies and gentlemen. We're ready to get them dollars cash. Let's, let's make it rain in your local game store, because it's the only way you're going to get this promo. So here's what I would suggest Wizards do. If Wizards happens to be listening in some fashion, or you could talk to someone who has, some sway there. Here's what you do,
Why are you
Wizards.
looking at me when you say that?
Maybe you can tell your birdie and goes the other way. But all I'm saying is Wizards come out and say, within the next X years, whatever that X wants to be, you will reprint this card in a Commander set. That's all you got to say. That's it. Just
in
tell
the
us.
same article, the context clues suggest that that's going to happen, because in the same article that previews Firesong and Sunspeaker, they talk about Brawl, which is basically going to be a commander variant using standard legal cards. So it'll be like standard one-on-one commander, and that means that Firesong and Sunspeaker are going to be a thing in that format. And so I'm sure they're going to print other copies of this card. They've also printed these Planeswalker deck cards that aren't available in packs, and that hasn't, ruined everything yet.
Right, because they were bad. Like,
well, they're bad.
None of
them have been like, oops, we accidentally the whole metagame with a card that is very rarely printed. And I don't think that Firesong and Sunspeaker are going to be. I think it's going to be the same sort of deal. But first of all, I just want to say this card's sweet. I think that a Lightning Helix deals 9 and you gain 6.
Okay, that's it. Yeah, you gain 9 and the 6.
I think that's how. I think you deal 6 to something and then deal 3 to something, and then you gain 6 life. I don't know. I'm not a judge scientist. But in any case, this card is sweet. The new border is super cool. We finally got to see what the Azuri in the Elves versus Adventures border also looks like.
We're getting there.
We'll get there too.
I don't know. I just want to add that I think it's a nice thing that they are doing something for the stores, because Wizards has gotten a lot of criticism in recent months over the fact of the hashtag storm in Walmart, the fact that they seem to be giving a lot of things to sort of these big box stores and not really creating these opportunities or these exclusives for the local game stores like they used to. And there's been some concern about, well, what are you doing to get people to go to local game stores? You seem more concerned with getting them into Target, getting them into Walmart. And so it's nice to see them doing something that encourages people to go to the game store for once.
It's another sign of this, and this is not exactly related, but it was a question that was answered about the unstable print run. And
fourth run.
Yeah, they're talking about, well, we did a 3rd reprinting, and we're thinking about doing a 4th reprinting. Like, at some point, Wizards, you should stop. It's okay to stop. It's like, it's one of those things, like, when they come up with a good idea, they seem to just be like, good idea. Like, they seem to just go nuts with it. They can't just have it and enjoy it and just let it go.
I think they can have a victory lap with Unstable. I mean, I think that this is, the success of the set almost feels like a fluke in a way. Like, they really learned from their past mistakes. And let's be honest, a couple of the unsets could be seen as mistakes in some sense of the word. And I'm fine with them taking a victory lap and saying, you know what, this was a home run. This was almost a, critically acclaimed, universally beloved set.
And it was. But
let them have it.
Don't take 4, magical laps around where you're just like,
I mean, this is I'm not a drafter. I am very open about that. In fact, when they were doing the M25 Streamer Showdown, they had offered me a slot, and I was like, I don't draft. But this is a set that I would buy boxes of. I have participated in multiple unstable drafts. I still have an unstable box sitting on my stove right now in my kitchen. And so I love this set. I think it's fine. Like, let them, as long as this isn't the standard for successful sets, but let them have this one,
Yeah.
This is one of those things where the more they keep doing that, the more they're going to devalue what they have, and that's a thing. This game is collectible for a reason.
But what about unstable? Is you can't play it in eternal formats. I mean, what are you really doing with that value, anyways? It's not legal in Commander,
lands. Every pack.
I mean, I guess, but I don't know. I'd be more worried if it was a set that you could really, really play with than a set where really the only thing you're using are the lands.
I mean, I'm personally okay with that, but it doesn't really matter. The point is, we kind of veered away a little bit. The point is, there's a buy a box promo now.
Yeah.
You can get it. I just want Wizards to come out and say they're going to reprint it at some point. And even if you say that, it's still going to have value. It's still going to be worth me going and getting it. Like, all these Commander players still want the card.
Right.
That doesn't stop. It just gets rid of that weird perception. Perception is reality, and the perception is that you're never going to make this card ever again. And that's a problem.
But why would you... I agree they should make the announcement, but I think the timing is crucial. If you know that you can just wait and get it in a Commander box, why would you even go buy a normal box at that point?
I mean, because you can't play with it until they release it in the Commander box, whenever that happens to be. It doesn't necessarily have to be this fall either.
I mean, I think there's nothing wrong with, like, I think there's nothing wrong with having this be the message now, and then the set comes out, the set's a big hit, and then going, okay, you guys are going to come out a Commander set. But if the goal is to get people to, again, go to the stores and then buy the boxes, you know there are going to be people who are like, it's kind of like when I played World of Warcraft. It's like there were people who were going, well, I could raid this dungeon and get this piece of gear now, Or I can just save up my badges and buy it with badge gear in 6 months. It's like, there are people who will not do that. And
it's just one of those, again, and also you're riding a very thin line. If you go too far and that card is good in standard and you say it's legal in standard, that's a huge problem. WoW TCG at one point had a promo and a sort of what they call the treasure packs, and this stupid card was $250 and you needed 4 of them to be competitive in standard. That's $1,000 right off the top to play Edwin McFleen or something or other that you needed in order to be competitive. Van Cleef, thank you.
Yeah, Edwin Van Cleef was like a $200 promo or something.
Right, because it was very good and you needed it. So just these are very scary waters. Again, it's a very forward, we want your money type situation.
The precedent in Magic is Kess Dissident Mage. It's not exactly the same, but there will only be foil copies of, #2cows available until the Commander product inevitably comes out that has the Hurloon Minotaurs on it. But that's the risk you take.
All right, so we have a little bit more in terms of Dominaria mechanics that has been revealed. We got to look at another saga. The first one we saw was the Phyrexian Scriptures.
I just noticed something. Their Hurloon Minotaurs, their combined power and toughness is 4 and 6, which means they're each 2 and 3s, like the original.
That's awesome.
Sorry.
Man.
And it costs 6, so each of them costs 3. I love it.
Wow. We're making hopes and dreams happen here, ladies and gentlemen. Dominating mechanics. Sagas are sweet. Sagas allow you to put lore counters on them, and things trigger when you put the counter on. Things do not trigger when you take the counter off. Only when you place the counter on the saga does something happen. Correct. So I noticed the card Power Conduit is a good old-fashioned. Had 1 printing in Mirrodin, and you can remove a counter from any permanent to put a counter on a charge counter, an artifact, or a +1/+1 counter on a creature.
Sure. Yeah,
so I will Flame of Keld and draw 2 cards every turn. I will Armageddon and Armageddon and Armageddon and Armageddon because I can.
Love it. Great.
So that seems super fun.
Historic. Shout out to Clock Spinning, also available there. We get some core tapper activations going. I love it.
Nice. Get some sweet jank. Historic
Hex Parasite, that's another good one. Sorry, keep going.
It's okay. Historic spells at this point are all artifacts, legendaries, and sagas. Now, the biggest part of that is artifacts. All
artifacts are historic.
Every single one, because there may or may not be
we don't want this to be a parasitic mechanic. You have to make everything sort of mixed together, and I like the way that this has done this. Anyway, sorry.
No, it's great, because if you have a card that just may so happen exist, to say that whenever you play a historic spell, draw a card, and you don't have to pay anything for that, and that's just an activation that you get, that's going to be really interesting, because there's a whole lot of artifacts in Magic. There's a whole lot of cool ways to play them and bounce them and get them back and do that again and draw the cards, blah, blah, blah. Pure Steel Paladin exists. This is a very interesting way to sort of compartmentalize the sagas as well as legendary creatures and artifacts themselves. Because again, this is all about lore. It's all about history. It's all about legends. And I actually think historic is really sweet.
I think so too. I think it's awesome. I think it's kind of weird that fodder cannon and hot soup are going to be particularly historic items.
Thank you. That's my only criticism.
But I like other than specific examples of #Flavor Judge coming in and ruining everybody's fun, I think that it's a pretty cool way to make things new and interesting with the tools that you already have.
Now, if we're going to go back to the originals, we might as well go back to arguably the best mechanic that's ever been made, and that's Kicker. Kicker was great. Kicker's good, makes all your cards good early and good late. Yeah, it's never a bad feeling. They get to have all these sweet bonuses. I just love it, and I'm happy with any removal spells that get better if you want them to, and that's cool. So just to note, Kicker's great. Kicker's great.
Yeah, I thought that I thought Kicker inclusion in this set was interesting, particularly because I thought that Flashback was going to be a shoo-in for Dominaria. And those two are commonly thought of as the two most popular of the do something else with your spell mechanics. Mm-hmm. And then they chose Kicker instead of Flashback, thus far at least. So I thought that was a little strange, but I do love Kicker. I think it's a great mechanic, even though it's sort of it's all encompassing and sort of doesn't let you design other keywords. The ability itself is amazing.
Yeah, it's fantastic. But that leads us to one of the last topics they mentioned here, which is legendary sorceries. Urza's Ruinous Blast. This thing is going to be, in my opinion, a standard powerhouse. A white and 4 generic mana, rare legendary sorcery that means if it's a legendary sorcery, you have to control a legendary creature or planeswalker. And then you exile all non-land permanents that aren't legendary. So you just wipe everything. To me, it feels like the 5-mana wipe that they've been getting closer and closer to, and they finally have it with a weird clause, which I'm totally okay with, which is great. And Noah Bradley kills it, and you have this sweet new frame that's on the screen now. It's almost looks like a crown for the card, which is really cool. And as we'll see later, I want Wizards to keep doing this. You're doing a great job. They just hired one of my graphic designers a few weeks ago who was fan-freaking-tastic, and I know he's going to kill it. And I've already seen some of his work. He did the T-shirt with the Shivan Dragon and all the pieces and parts on it.
Okay.
Yeah, I see it.
Awesome.
I'm like, dude, you go. You do you, bro, because this is, jump in there and just be experimental. Like, have fun with it. Wizards needs to relax a little bit and let things kind of move and shape and change. And I really think they're doing that.
You were like the proud mama at the Little League game in the bleachers. Like, that's my baby.
I want to buy that shirt. I want that shirt real bad. Just to be clear for everybody, we are only going to talk about cards that are officially spoiled. We'll talk about the leaks and talk about them obliquely. But, things like Phyrexian Scriptures and that the Book of Keld that you were talking about in Urza's Ruinous Blast have been officially previewed. And those are the cards that we will be talking about specifically.
Yeah. I mean, and basically,
so
we're doing a set review. So, like, if we go too far on one card, we're just going to run it back.
Well, but I feel like it's a natural response to, when the leaks happened, I feel like I saw an unusual amount of people that were very upset and had purposely been trying to, kind of insulate themselves from seeing things before they wanted to. And so because of that, because of the record number of people that voiced that concern, which we'd never really experienced before, we wanted to kind of honor that and respect those folks that are purposely trying to, not get too much. What is it you like to say about the fire hose or the fire hydrant?
Drinking from the fire hydrant.
You say something. Yeah, so we're just trying to honor those folks who would rather take it as it comes.
I mean, they literally gave you half the set and almost all of the rares.
But there are people who are so hyped for the set that they want to enjoy it 4 cards at a time, and they want to keep the suspense, and I think that's fine.
Fair enough. So we're moving on here to some of the templates and rules changes. Coming with Dominaria is a lot of really cool, sometimes very subtle things, and things that, people may blow up over for no real good reason because that's dumb. But whatever.
In Magic? No,
it never happens. First, we're going to have our Separator Bar. We have a Separator Bar now between rules text and flavor text. Hasn't been seen since Portal, really. Yeah. Basically, here's a line, and the stuff up here is rules, and this down here is just the flavors.
It was pretty harsh in Portal. The way that they did it in this set, I think, was nice. It's like just a little, just a little gray separator. I think that this actually doesn't look terrible.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I mean, it's one of those. It's like, all right. I mean, it doesn't really affect much, and I dig it, and that's cool. So the legendary frame, which we just talked about a little bit, again, is this sort of experimenting. They're doing the crown, making it look different, unique, cool, and I'm totally for that. So let's do more legendary frames. Let's do some crazy, silly stuff. You know, get creative. Let's make it happen. There's no more blank to your mana pool. No more adding whatever to your mana pool.
No more referring to the mana pool on cards is interesting.
Yeah. That's a thing that you're not going to do anymore. Just add red or blue and take a damage for Shivan Reef. That's it.
So the new wording, now I don't know this for a fact, but the new wording for Omnath is going to be like, has +1/+1 for the mana that you have, I guess.
I was wondering about that. So the mana pool is still going to be a thing, right?
I think
you're
still
going to have.
But for the tap add to your mana pool, I think they're just going to take it off of Land of War Elves and lands and stuff. Okay. I don't know what they're doing with everything else.
Because I know sometimes you float mana, like you don't spend all the mana you have, or you bank it, and that's a thing.
Right.
I don't think any of those things break or stop. The mana pool they're not like decommissioning the mana pool. It's just like,
Oh, speaking of the mana pool, shout out to Chewy, and I think 200 episodes, 500 episodes?
500 episodes
big milestone.
of that podcast.
Yeah. Wow, that's incredible. Well, congratulations to Chewy and the crew. Singular they.
Took a while. What's wrong? Are you what?
It's weird how people take like offense to things. that really don't need to be offensive in any shape, because God forbid they find an aspect of it they don't like. And it's suddenly
they don't like. I see what you did there.
He or she doesn't.
It's gotten to you, Evan.
That's right. He or she needs to binary. Honest to God, I just like the fact that there's less words on cards. If nothing else, just appreciate less words on cards.
Did you hear so I have to talk about this. So apparently in M25, in addition to the usual quality concerns of like foiling and bending and things of that nature, and then of course there's the mapping. I guess there were some cards, there was a prevalence of ink blots or like ink damage where there were like splashes and things like that. And there were actually some people, I have to say this, that blamed this. They were they said that Wizards was under such pressure to change the pronouns that they basically went to pieces and had to, and it affected
the
M25
tiny gnomes
somehow.
that live inside the Xerox machines were
and so
stressed out.
The fact that they happened was seen as the reason why ink damage took place on M25. If I'm lying, I'm dying, but this is a theory that people have, and bless their hearts.
I feel dumber for having heard that theory. Okay, that's great. Keep that up, guys. You keep up that good work.
The thing that you said though is less space taken up by unneeded chaff. Like, let's just get to the point. Brevity is the soul of wit. If I'd had more time, I would have written a shorter letter. Like all those quotes about just shortening things and getting to the point. The singular they is accepted by the style guides now. Get over it, and I think it's just a great change.
It's just it's just a weird hill to die on. I swear to God, there's just less words, man. Just like less words. Don't look into anything more than, man, it's really nice, isn't it? Isn't it nice? Can't we have nice things?
I mean, not to mention the fact that there are people who identify as non-binary people, but beyond that, it's also totally irrelevant. It just shortens the cards. It's not totally irrelevant to them, but what I'm saying is that this change is better for a lot of reasons, and the ones that people are focusing on are probably focusing on the wrong reasons why they're mad.
Yeah, I mean, I could maybe see if there was no practical reason for this. I could maybe see why people are upset. But when you see when you list the other reasons of, like you said, Chicago Manual of Style, this is something that editorial, companies and journalists are even getting on board with. This is something that, like you said, less ink, less space. Like, there are practical reasons for doing this. The social ones you could see as maybe just sort of a side effect or a pleasant, whatever. And so, like, it's baffling to me.
If your collateral damage is that you made some people happy, that's our problem here? That's our problem here. Well, you made these other people really excited, so that's a terrible change. God, get out. All right, we're going to move on. This is silly. All right. We now have this spell. We're going to refer to things as this spell. So Talera's Battalion, which was my one and only spec in my MTG Finance history because I lost a bunch of money because I was stupid. Right. Talera's Battalion is now saying cast this spell only if you've cast another green spell this turn. It used to say cast Talera's Battalion only if you've cast another green spell. It doesn't need to say itself. It can just, this spell is this spell. Again, less words, less letters. That's a good thing. Yeah.
This was confusing when you had multiple different copies of things. For example, if you had a creature in play that said, Prodigal Sorcerer deals 1 damage to target creature or player, you could say, oh, I tapped Prodigal Sorcerer number 1, but Prodigal Sorcerer number 2 is the one that's dealing the damage, so your tricks didn't work. That's just like a simplifying thing for new players as well. Makes a lot of sense. It's going to ruin the lives of people that, like, document and like have to search for cards in text and stuff like that, because everything is going to say this spell in its text box now instead of whatever its name was. And so if you're trying to organize your cards online in some way, shape, or form, you're going to have to redo your whole search algorithm. But overall, it's a great change for gameplay.
Also, Talera S Battalion is my new drag name, just so you know. So just
Talera S Battalion.
Yeah.
Well, we have one more change here for Dominaria, and this is the Planeswalker Redirection rule. This is with 700 cards getting errata. 700. We ain't made changes like this since like M10, maybe something like that. It's been a minute.
This is polarizing. Yeah.
Super crazy. I mean, now things, for example, Leyline of Sanctity made bolting Jason possible. that's not really going to be the case anymore because your opponent's hexproof, but Jace ain't. You don't say you and your Planeswalkers is. And so that's a thing. And how certain cards work are going to be weird. I appreciate that they leaned on the Alpha Lightning Bolt to fix the problem.
Absolutely.
Any target, super brilliant. I'm cool with that. That's great.
I was very offended.
As you should be. You know, whatever. But, you know, things that have changed to target player are going to be target player Planeswalker with some weird, like, caveats. Yes, it's going to be a little strange. Usually, if you care enough that you have to look it up, it's probably not that big of a deal. You're going to be like, how does this work? And you go, oh,
right.
Okay. That's it.
It makes some of my favorite Magic cards worse. Chandra Torch of Defiance and Sulfuric Vortex are these Chandra Torch of Defiance plus ability and Sulfuric Vortex, for example, aren't going to be able to redirect to Planeswalkers anymore. Mm-hmm. There's lots of erratas. Most of the things that say like each other opponent or stuff like that are going to be changed, the only exception being Vile Smasher the Fierce, which was called out specifically, which is a commander card. But it's mostly to red cards because it's mostly damage associated. The fact that I can Lightning Bolt a Jace while there's a ley line in play is a positive change because the shortcut of Bolt your Jace just makes sense. Right. All these changes simplify the rules in your mind. Just like damage on the stack simplified things, just like getting rid of batches and moving to the stack simplified things. All of it's great. I think that it's a great change.
All right, so we're going to move on here. We have so much to talk about. Oh my god! Finally, moving past the first pick, which was all things Dominaria. Kickstarter.
We did it!
Wow, you guys, 7,564 raised in 18 days. You guys are unbelievable. I am still blown away. I still a little numb, still a little weird.
Yeah, I was prepared. So I was streaming in the hours leading up to the Kickstarter closing. And when Evan initially pitched the Kickstarter, I was prepared to do a very humble stream of like, you know, we weren't going to meet the goal and I was going to have to thank everybody for loving us anyways and for the people who did show out. And it ended up turning into a celebratory stream by a really large margin. And, you know, I think the thing that we feel the most moved by is that you could spend your time with anybody. You could spend your energy with anybody. You could spend your money on anybody, and y'all consistently choose to spend it with us, and that means so damn much. And so thank you so much for that. And it's just been a treat looking in every day. I've been hitting refresh, I freely admit that, and just watching the number go up and thinking, this is gonna stop. Like, we're stopping at 2,000, right? And then Evan will send me a message and say we're at 4,000, and it's like, we're stopping at 4, right? And then a couple days later, it's at 5, and it's like, it's been a treat just hitting refresh every couple of days and watching it go up, and it's been wild.
That's awesome.
207 backers at the various levels. That's a lot of potatoes.
That's a heck of a chunk of
many
spuds,
of you,
buddy.
Many of you will be receiving potatoes in the mail.
Literal
because
potatoes.
I'm gonna. That's a thing I'm gonna do. Update on that, by the way. I did order the new laptop, which is a thing that I'm going to be hopefully debuting next week. This is hopefully the last stream with the current potato machine. But we'll see how Costco's delivery works.
Also, the three of us have each received our own batch of playmats. Of our playmats, and so we have a limited number to give away. So I know we plan on attending events in the next couple of months, and we'll probably have at least our tokens with us. So do say hi to us. You know, we tend to save our swag for the loveliest of people. So come say hello to us, and you might be able to score yourself either a nifty playmat or one of our many tokens.
I'll be bringing all my stuff to Seattle, where I will also be a featured spellslinger at Grand Prix Seattle.
Nice.
Has not been officially announced yet, but that's going to be a thing. So Thursday, Friday at the GP site, you can come play against my standard deck because I'll be playing in the standard event on Saturday and Sunday. And I'll be in Seattle all week.
You know what else hasn't been officially announced?
What's that?
That the three of us are going to be in Vegas.
Oh, that's right. All three of us are going to be in Vegas. Yeah, we're still working on all the stuff.
Whatever will
Vegas,
we do?
But we will all be in Vegas. And so the folks, for example, the folks that donate to us on the Kickstarter at the dinner level, you'll be able to put bacon on your cheeseburgers at one of the restaurants that we go to. So we'll have some dinner on us or next to us.
If you have any idea how many times I brought that up to my children, I'm like, you know, y'all are getting an experience, right? People pay for this experience. It's great. It never works. It's fun.
I have to say it's been quite.
I'm
a
sure
rush.
Will Smith's kid is like, yeah, okay, Dad.
I was thinking about that on Twitter the other day. I think like most of us, maybe we were nerdy kids and maybe we weren't the most popular, and so I couldn't help but think. And we actually cleared that goal very quickly. Yeah. And there was a moment where I was like, when I was a kid, I couldn't pay people to be my friend, and now I'm 34 years old, and someone paid to have dinner with me and us. Like, what is that? Like, it's wild.
So anyway, we're gonna have to figure out how to spend $7,000 on a project that we budgeted to be about $1,500. So we'll figure out how to make that worth your while. Don't you worry. We'll figure it all out and tell you where all the money's going.
Yeah, I mean, we have almost 24 special guests as a result of being able to raise stuff like that. So that's super cool because ideally maybe we can do more of this in the future, and you don't want to just be like, well, just do all this stuff for nothing, thanks. Doesn't always work. Spellbook Jace. Signature Spellbook Jace packaging and contents were revealed, and my God, it's gorgeous.
Pleasant surprise. I was not expecting this to be good.
It's amazing. I'm blown away. I have it on screen for you now. The cards involved are Jace Beleren, Blue Elemental Blast, hello Popper, Brainstorm, hello Popper and Legacy, Counterspell, hello Popper, Gifts Ungiven, which is great, Mystical Tutor, which again Legacy, Negate, which is very playable, Threads of Disloyalty, I'm sorry. And that's
it's
those
a
are your 8
play
cards.
Modern.
It's just some sideboards sometimes when you think about it, maybe. Okay, sure, whatever. That's fine.
It won a Pro Tour and Sean McLaren.
Sean McLaren is typing a furious email to you right now. I'm sorry, but this card, see what I did, sorry.
Right, you start out with the apology, right? Got it. No, but for real, Wizards just killed it. This is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm saying. You take your colors, you take your designs, you take your mana symbols, you do whatever you want with them. Go crazy, because the cooler and more unique stuff you have like this, it's just going to get people pumped up. Far as I can tell from the information I've been able to gather, is that this is based on WPN level, just like From the Vault used to be. You're only going to get so many, just like they used to. It's not going to be in mass market. You're not going to see spell books in Walmart or whatever. So you have to get these early. I mean, at this point, we're in that situation where it's like no one's going to be able to get this for $20. I hate to tell you, there's no way, because one of those 8 cards is going to be foil. Congratulations if you win the Brainstorm lottery, because that's going to be good money. That's
the real one.
That's the definite dollar bills.
Well, I think that part of the appeal of this set, that foil lottery is great, but, I think part of the appeal of this set is that people can get, the cast problem. This is a way to get new, great art on cards that isn't necessarily foil. I personally tend to avoid foil cards because they have a habit of puffing out your deck, and so I tend to lean more towards alters, because that's a way to get new art without having that happen. And so a lot of the good feedback that I've seen around this set is that people can get the new arts without having that foil problem, and so that's a great thing.
Yeah, it solves both problems. A, it gives you a reason to be excited about opening the box. You don't, well, I'm just getting these 8 cards and the 8 cards. Now, which one is foil? And B, for those who don't like foils, they've given you all the non-foil promos. That's terrific.
Yeah.
I'm really excited for future spell books. I assume Liliana and Chandra are going to be 2 and 3, both of which seem like they are going to be super awesome. The foiling and the card frames on this spell book for Jace in particular are just great. I love them. I love the reverse color that looks like they're Planar Chaos time shift or color shifted cards with the white text as the titles and the white mana symbol on top of the darker background. I think they're just super cool. This is just a home run on all fronts.
Different artists, you get to see different interpretations of how they envision Jace, and Jace, seems, maybe different or more mature, even more masculine, depending on the artist who envisioned. And I think that's really great too, because I think we all kind of view Planeswalkers differently. I don't think any two people look at Jace the same way, and I think this might have been a misfire if it was just the same artist, because that would get kind of boring. But you get to see Darken's take on Jace, which might be a little more eerie or a little more creepy versus sort of the Alexi version and things like that. And I think that was a really great choice.
Oh man, I have a plan. Actually, I have 3.
Yeah, that's a good flavor text.
I appreciate the Threads of Disloyalty one. If every thought is a string, you just have to find the right ones to pull.
Yep.
Man,
I think that there are some people who are upset that there's the randomization aspect in this, which I can understand, because this is replacing the From the Vault product, which had no randomization. And this is going to have a little bit of gamble in your future, but that's the price you pay. And I think that having a little bit of randomization in a Magic the Gathering product is perfectly reasonable. I'm okay with that.
there is no gamble if there is no future. So
that's right.
Make it happen. I'm thrilled. I think this is. I love it when Wizards just nails it. You know, it's great when you don't have to sit here and do the pot shot thing, or pick at it, or try to figure out some weird angle. No, this is just fantastic. You just
and
did
I
a great
think this
job.
is something people were skeptical of. Like I remember when this was first announced, I think people kind of had their flags up of, okay, well, Jace is nice and all, but you're coming off of a From the Vault thing, and so I think the bar was pretty low for this one, and so it's nice to see it be so well received.
Yeah, expectations were super low, and I think it really played into their plans.
Yeah.
Moving on here to Desperate Ravings. Tomorrow. As of tomorrow, the MTG Arena NDA is dropping.
That's right.
So everybody
now,
can see what they're working on.
We don't know exactly what time, because if it dropped at midnight Eastern, we could talk about it in 15 minutes. But we don't know exactly when it drops, so we'll be mostly talking about it next week.
The thing I'm most excited about is so there's two things about this I'm very excited about. One, I love seeing all of the people on my Twitter feed that were like, I'm going to start streaming. You better watch. I'm going to come for Arena. And it's like, really, girl? Really? Yeah. So I wrote down everybody who talked a big game and said they were going to start streaming to see if they actually start streaming. And number two, I really like the new content creator package. Buried in the announcement, they had this zip file with layouts. If you're a streamer or someone who's wanted to start streaming, and you're not very good at Photoshop or you're not very creative, getting a layout can be very daunting. But they have starter layouts for you with all the 5 colors of the color pie, including like AFK layouts, BRB layouts. The stream is coming. Great starting resources for any new streamer. There's also a little Word document with advice on how to get started at streaming or get started making content. That was a fantastic idea, and whoever thought of that, kudos.
That was just one of those great leg ups that often people are just like, well, I do it, but it's going to look super ugly, and I don't know how to do a thing, and I'm not good at Photoshop. It is a little weird, I guess, in some ways that they gave you like raw PSD files, like actual Photoshop files, because the people who don't have Photoshop are like, how do I do the thing?
There's a solution for that. Athena Froelich, the grand dame of the VSLs and the producer and everything like that, offered her services for free on Twitter, that if you have any customizations you want to make and you're not fluent in it, or if you don't have it, she's offered to help people free of charge. So shout out to Athena. Follow her anyways, but she's especially kind to do this.
Before we go back,
you were going to pick that one up.
There you go. Before we go back right into talking about Arena, because I'm sure we're going to talk about it a little bit more, but for the people specifically who want to stream Arena and are worried about beginning without an audience or beginning without, like we're already subculture celebrities, us three on the internet. So if Erin streams, people are going to show up to see her hopefully lose, right? So this and people have the same. Exactly. And this is the same is true for us. But there are people out there who are like, I don't know if I can do that. Look, go back to the old story with Kenji, right? When Kenji Egashira started streaming, he had like 30, 40 viewers to start. And then he streamed every day for a year. And by the end of that year, he was the most popular Magic the Gathering stream. No one is streaming Arena right now. If you start on the ground floor, you are leg up. You are ahead of everybody else, ahead of the game. The most important thing in streaming is showing up. So if you show up, you're going to get started. It's going to be tough. 4 months in, you're not going to see a ton of growth. Maybe even 6 months in. It's going to test your patience and your fortitude. But if you stick it out, you have a much better chance than anyone like me who would give up after 2 weeks.
Right, because 6 months in a day, once you get to that day, that's when Drake comes on your stream.
Right,
and it's fantastic. Then you guys have 600,000 people watching.
Ninja is a great. Let's talk about Ninja for a second because he's a great example here. Ninja is the world's most popular streamer by a wide margin. He makes more than $500,000 a month right now. You know what he was doing 2 years ago? He was making $40K a year playing Halo professionally. You know what he was doing 2 years before that? He was in college.
And he never stopped going to college. This was like
never stopped going to college.
If you go look on his CNBC, I think it was his
MSNBC.
MSNBC. Yeah, it was absolutely fantastic because he was like, "Look, I kept going working and pursuing dreams and goals. This isn't necessarily the role that I was expecting, but he's got it and that he's really taking advantage of it."
I understand that you got to get super lucky. All right, but you also got to work. Nobody won an Oscar with only work or won an Oscar with only getting lucky. You got to do both at the same time.
A wise woman once said, if you want a hot body, if you want a Bugatti,
Wow.
You better work, bitch.
Wow.
You better work.
Wow. All right, so we
That
got a lot of
sums it up
topics.
nicely, I think, actually. I hope that's the flavor text on a future brainstorm.
Well, I was at Reno last week, which is why we didn't have a show.
Right.
Because I had to be somewhere else in Nevada. Now, Las Vegas is where Gamma has been for the past, like, forever. I have no idea if it's been even anywhere else. Gamma was always in Vegas, and it was always at the Bally's, and you kind of knew where it was, and it wasn't very convenient. And they moved it to the Peppermill, which is an awesome resort, which Ruben knows because it's a really big poker destination, which is super cool, and the place was great.
They got a nice 5-10 no-limit game about once a month. All the rich guys from Tahoe come in, so if you're in Reno, be sure to get on that 5-10 list.
Nice. Well, I walk around the show, and there's WizKids, and WizKids has the prototype of Heroes of Dominaria, and the actual board game they're making later this year. So, and right next to it is a little sign that says "Don't take any pictures" or whatever. And I'm like, "Oh man, this is crazy!" But like, I can try it out and do the prototype. It's gonna be sweet. And the next thing I know, they go on like Board Game Geek TV and show literally every part of that prototype.
You were so careful too.
Every part of that prototype has been seen. You can go watch it right now. Just go Google it. You'll find it. It's right there, and that's fine. For what it's worth, it's fine. It's cool. It's neat. It's not. It's one of those things where, you know, as I look at it, and Wizards does this. Wizards does this thing with WizKids where they do regular versions, and then later they do premium versions. So in the current setup, you'll get like 4 little meeples, because it's kind of a worker placement game. You get to take your meeples and they go do stuff at little different places in Dominaria. That's cool. But if you get the premium version, you get like 1 badass statue and 3 little meeples. Because you want to pay an extra $20, because you can do that. So the problem.
Don't tell me that Sarah Angel mini doesn't look super awesome.
And I'm not saying it don't. My problem is that you're kind of splitting your audience a little bit, because if you want the sweet thing, you have to wait for it. And if you wait for it, you're not going to buy it as soon as the first edition comes out. And if the first edition doesn't do super well starting out, that's a problem. That's a little scary. Like, you want this to do really, really well. And the game is fine. I got to play it, and it's okay. It's not bad. Okay. I dig it. It's neat. You know, it didn't blow me away or anything, but it's also part of the experience of a board game is to have those really thematic components, and all that stuff was in prototype form. So that could change. But I really just wish there was one version to rule them all. If you just wanted to make a nice version with the sweet miniatures, just make the nice version with the miniatures. Just, you know, stop asking people for $60 or $80, because it kind of traps people in the middle of it. That said, they also spoke, and I also got to see these. They talked a little bit about I guess they're calling them the Creature Forge.
Sure.
The Creature Forge Overwhelming Swarm set, expected to hit store shelves in July 2018, is little miniatures. And I think the way that they were kind of describing them was that they kind of had sort of a hero click space where you could basically say that they're tapped or not tapped. I mean, it would kind of spin the base on them, because they didn't have the bases. All they had were the little figures. And there was a super cool little dinosaur and a sweet little zombie and stuff. And that looked really cool, legitimately really sweet. But I'd love to see them sort of in their final form, because they're selling them in blind bags. They're selling them in booster bricks, essentially, and they're going to have rarities. And it's just, you know, like, then all of a sudden you're going to be like, okay, I can pay $3.50 for one of these miniatures that I don't know which one I'm getting. And if there's rarities, which means there's going to be a secondary market value, which means suddenly you're like, well, do I pay $12.50 for the Sarah Angel thing, or do I just like roll the dice and hope I don't get stuck with a zombie or goblin if I don't play zombies or goblins? That's a weird setup. I don't really know how to frame it any better than that. It's just a little strange to me, because it's very similar to another thing.
Buy singles on the secondary market.
Well, what's up with the Ultra Pro Relic tokens? Now, the Command Cast, the Command Cast, which is, Josh and Jimmy, and they do a fantastic job, and they had them, and they're playing with them, and they're showing off, and I got to see them and play with them at Gamma. They were there, and I was like, wow, these are actually pretty cool. I swear.
I got to them at F&M when I was testing Modern before the GP in Phoenix. They're actually kind of neat.
They're kind of neat. I was, I was definitely super crazy skeptical. I thought these things were a bad idea. What are you doing? But now that I've seen them now, see how they work with the cards, and the little dials are really nice, and they don't kind of flop around and spin their numbers. I'm impressed. But where are they?
Yeah, exactly.
There's a thread on Reddit being like, everything's kind of for pre-order, and we sure would like to play with this, whatever, and we can't find them anywhere. So,
well, it sounds like based on the thread that it's up to the LGSs, and it sounds like they're just not interested in it. Like, it doesn't sound like it's a foible on Ultra Pro's part. It's the stores saying, it's cute, but like we're just not that into it.
It's not necessarily the LGS's fault either, because I know that some LGSs, at least here in Vegas, contacted their suppliers and they didn't have a clue what they were talking about. And so the whole supply chain is kind of messed up. It could be a local game store issue. It could be a supplier issue. It could be an Ultra Pro issue. I don't know. I don't know.
But the bottom line is it's not getting in the hands of people.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think cool stuff has gotten in our order at all. Again, that's a thing that we would sell if we had it to sell.
So can I ask you, I don't know, and I know sometimes we like to trap you with questions you can't answer, so if you can't answer, please say so, but are you implying that this is something you did order and you just haven't gotten it, or?
Well, we don't have any in to sell, so we haven't received any. As far as I know.
Specifically at Cool Stuff, you guys don't have them?
As far as I know, we have received 0. I could be wrong on that, and I'll check on that, and feel free to follow me on Twitter, and I'll bring it up, because I want it to be like a thing. It looked neat. And it just feels like.
So you're saying that you just have no resource with which to order it?
As far as I know, it hasn't arrived at distributors. It hasn't arrived at distributors. It can't be sent to stores.
But like I said, I saw a couple of them out in the wild.
Right. So where those came from, I don't know.
Some folks have gotten them.
Right.
It's just that they haven't released the dam has not released enough water to keep the water level high enough as of yet.
Can we collectively thank Wizards so very much for fixing the GP trophies? Look at this. Look at this beautiful, sweet, sublime, classy. I'm happy to have this on my mantle. Grand Prix champion trophy. How sweet is that? How actual sweet is that? Wizards, thank you. Thank you. Could we get rid of the bubblegum thing you give everybody who wins a friggin' Pro Tour? Can we get rid of that one next? Can we have a bigger cup that looks cool? Like one like maybe Mark Herberholtz would hold with like going and it looks great because it's a super sweet cup and it's nice and it's classy and we don't have to look like we're trying to chase down the esports. We're chasing down. All right, sorry.
Evan, block out the word Grand Prix and the Planeswalker symbol. What is this a trophy for? Tell me
for
what
winning something.
Winning what? Winning something
good.
Yep.
Winning something
you
good.
Won probably a go-kart race or possibly a three-point shooting contest.
A bridge competition.
Exactly. A bridge competition is another good example. Perhaps a Magic competition. But maybe you also won like second place at a beauty pageant or the National Geographic photographing contest. This has no personality whatsoever. I just want it to be slightly better than this.
Wimbledon has a plate. Man, you're talking about like if Wimbledon only gave away silver rackets, then they would really be in there.
No.
Really
everybody knows what the Wimbledon plate looks like.
Do we have a red zone layout ready? Is this where we're going?
Everybody knows what the Wimbledon plate looks like. Everybody knows what the Super Bowl or the Stanley Cup looks like. At least be a little bit unique. And also, hopefully, these don't fall apart like the old Owen Turnwald's Player of the Year trophy when he picked it up and the base fell off.
It's true.
I didn't know that story.
4 years ago. He was moving stuff from house to house, and he opened the box from Wizards. Apparently, it just came in 2 pieces, I think is what the story was.
Lord
I don't
knows,
recall specifically. But.
I have railed and complained enough about the trophies and how much I dislike them. So when they fix them and or change them to what I like.
I'm so happy for you. They should make it slightly less generic.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
Fair enough. So, all right. So, Aaron, it's time for you to dive deep and tell us about #PR Nightmares. Because there's a website called Mana Traders, which appears to be a deck loaning service.
Yes.
And I'll just go ahead and let you have it because, man, this is a good one. So
I want to preface this. So there's actually 2 companies we're going to talk about tonight. I'll try to make it quick. But the first one is one that I had praised earlier for not being a PR nightmare, for doing the right thing. And now it appears they're back on the list because they seem to have backpedaled a little bit. KMC recently received some praise from me for being very transparent about issues that people were having with their sleeves. KMC used to be one of the top sleeve providers out there. and people have really not had nice things to say about them recently. The quality's really gone down a bit, and they did a post before, a really nice, eloquent Facebook post, kind of owning it and promising to do better. And then just recently, as of March 7th, they then did another post, which has no real paragraph breaks as far as I can see. And it's this huge wall of text that basically goes, when rumors of an owner and or formula change began to surface, accompanied by an increasing perception that the sleeve quality had diminished, we were genuinely, and this just goes on and on and on. So now they're saying that they didn't know that people had issues with their sleeves. And if you do have an issue, they're not our sleeves, they're counterfeit sleeves. And it's like, wait a minute. So first you do a post owning it completely, owning the issue completely, and promising to do better. And now there's this post saying, blame it on the counterfeits. Like, how does that work exactly?
Well, first of all, there is currently the best scapegoat that any company has right now in the hobby industry is counterfeits. Fantasy Flight, who makes essentially more board games and certainly bigger releases than anybody else, they said that there were millions of dollars being lost via counterfeits. And this has been a real problem if you buy it from Amazon, that if someone had provided them a copy of Seven Wonders, which is a very popular board game, and they had counterfeited it, well, it would be mixed in. All the inventory gets mixed in. And so it's actually something I've been working on for Cool Stuff, because Cool Stuff's products are 100% guaranteed as like the real actual stuff. And that's actually becoming a thing that you can kind of, you can tout, because it's actually kind of hard sometimes, particularly, again, in this reseller-based, third-party seller, eBay, Amazon world, to know if you're actually getting the real stuff, because it's real easy to copy packaging and put crappy sleeves in there. It's real easy to make a terrible copy of a board game because it looks just good enough to pass whatever standard they're doing to make sure that they're the same things. So that's really clear.
This particular announcement really bothered me on like, it just read like a James Joyce Ulysses chapter. Like, we were just like getting real experimental with our Cormac MacArthur bullcrap.
Big words, no paragraph breaks.
Yeah, no
long.
paragraph break, no punctuation like we're William Faulkner. It was like, this is not the place to experiment with our English degree.
So let's get the Mana Traders. Give us some Mana
Traders.
So
what really got people talking was a company called Mana Traders. And Mana Traders is a company that lets people essentially rent cards for Magic Online. Sort of like Sphere Deck. Sphere Deck was the paper version of this, and Mana Traders is the online version.
I think they both still exist.
Well, I've heard rumors that Sphere Deck might be on the way out, that they've been having some difficulties lately.
Yeah.
Oh, that's unfortunate. They were a great resource. But
website still works.
So anyways, so somebody had went to Reddit and said that they had a Mana Traders account previously. They unsubscribed due to having a negative experience, but they really needed to test for GP Seattle, and so they thought they would just re-up with a 1-month subscription and see what happens. And when they tried to create an account, they received an error message from the website. They reached out to a customer service agent for Mana Traders and said, "Hey, I'm having a really hard time setting up an account here." And the person then proceeded to ask them if they had any issues in the past, and then asks them if they've ever written any bad comments about them on Facebook. Completely unprompted, unwarranted. The person who wrote the post indicated that they used different information, so that there's no way that those two things could have really been tied together. The person had indicated that, I might have, what's the big deal? And then they said, well, yeah, because you did that, we're just not going to set you up again. And the person was like, what? So the staff actually says, now you want to sub with us again after you publicly tried to discredit us. And then the person says, never mind, I don't want to really ride with you anymore. And that's what happened. And so they go to Reddit, and this thread has just de-evolved, and there's just been no attempt on Mana Traders' part to steer the conversation, to get it back on the rails, to maybe counter what this person said. I do believe there was one reply, but it was deleted. Sure. And then they've said nothing. And it's one thing when it's a personal thing. It's one thing when someone says, I don't like this pro. There's not really much you can do about that. You kind of just have to let a post like that kind of write itself out. But when you're a business, you can't afford to just let people spin themselves into a storm over this. There's no PR here. And furthermore, if you click on Mana Trader's name on Reddit, they have negative karma. And I don't mean like -2, where like maybe they just had a bad week. Oh no, they're at -97. I don't even have negative karma. Reddit and I have not had the best relationship. How do you as a business, much less a person, get -97 karma? Like what?
Look, never point out to your customer that you just gave them a simple question. Okay?
No.
Don't do that. There's just so many ways, and you could have said things like, well, you had posted on our Facebook page, because apparently that's what they added in later and said it wasn't them Facebook stalking, but that person had went to the page of Mana Traders and left a bad review, yada yada yada. There are ways that you could even have this as a policy that you don't want to do business with these people, but you don't have to do it in this manner. Like, standing aside of like whether you like that or don't like that or think that's right, if that's what they wanted to do, there's like 100 different ways to do this. This is not the way to do this.
And if you look at the deleted reply, so Mana Traders did post a reply which was deleted. It says, early February, the OP commented on our Facebook page how they thought our service was bad and that they were canceling. Made quite the fuss, if I remember. What?
Yeah. Well, this response,
this
response was from Jason, who is apparently the CEO of, quote, Man Traders, which is another traders.
With past experience of vindictive users. So they're basically saying we have haters. We now simply preemptively ban users that make such comments to prevent losses. This thread delivers like dominoes.
Yeah. Look, wow, that's amazing.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Okay, so I have a couple things to say on this, which is, first of all, Mana Traders just needs to get a PR person and not have whoever's in charge of the company, who clearly is good at the company part, because this is like a successful business, do something other than, interact with the public face of the company, because this is not how 97 karma is not, or negative 97 karma ain't great. Like, you have to try to do that.
If you've ever heard of Amy's Baking Company,
right?
You should take a look at that.
Bob's Dugout?
Yes.
Oh man, Amy's Baking Company in particular was another terrific one.
Amy's Baking Company is a great one.
Yeah.
There was also a hilarious toy reseller, like a secondary market reseller of used antique toys that just started spouting crazy nonsense about the political sphere in the United States, along with just photos of antique toys.
Right.
It was hilarious.
And I mean, there's ways that you can. Now, I'm not saying that what this person is alleging necessarily happened. I'm not taking it at 100% value, but there are ways to sort of counter this that are still professional, that are still quick and efficient. Like, there are ways that you can sort of, gain control of the conversation or spin the narrative that aren't personal, that don't appear unprofessional. And more importantly, you have to get involved in the conversation. There's no reason that this thread should be on 200 plus 486 comments and you haven't said anything. Like, as a person, you might be able to circumvent that, but as a business, there's absolutely no reason why you should be letting people spin the narrative this way, in such a way. It's just baffling to me.
You want a subscription with us, yet you cannot answer simple questions that we ask you.
Now, right. I mean, I have to say, card hoarders certainly will probe into certain transactions that might seem a little fishy, but I don't think we've ever asked somebody, are you on social media? Have you ever? No, I mean, it's not uncommon to probe, but the things that they're specifically probing about are way off base, where it's just girl.
All right, so we'll move on here to splash damage, as we have a little bit this week that pertains to Magic, but isn't exactly Magic. So there's this game coming out from Valve. Valve being Half-Life 2, Valve being Team Fortress 2, Valve being Portal. This is one of the biggest game companies in the world. I mean, this is Steam, for God's sake.
Yeah.
And they are making a Dota, what's Defense of the Ancients, right?
Yep.
For a card
game.
One
of the most popular esports in the world, still to this day.
Yes.
And they've been working with Richard Garfield. And Garfield, rather, and he's been helping design this game called Artifact. And Artifact is basically what's really cool about playing card games? You should play 3 card games all at the same time. Because you basically are playing one board versus another board versus a third board. And then if you've ever played Solforge, it's very lane-based like Solforge was. And every round, the creatures just kind of bust into each other automatically. And you can play spells and stuff to kind of move their positions and whatnot. And to hear a talk by Gabe Newell about, like, you know, what the game is not and what the game is not trying to be, and it's not a free-to-play game, and they're never going to sell it as such, and, like, opening boosters is like a communal thing. I thought that was really interesting, whatever that's supposed to mean. But he was like, you know, this is, you know, just like we did with Half-Life 2, we want to redefine the first-person shooter, and I was like, oh boy, this better be something crazy. And it's like Solforge 3 times, 3 boards.
I gotta say, this game, first of all, looks gorgeous. Second of all, it's based on a MOBA, right?
Yeah.
So you have the lane thing built in, like Duels of the Ancients. Dota and Dota 2 are similar to League of Legends and those style of games, and this is trying to turn that into sort of a card game atmosphere. And I think they succeeded. I mean, this game looks gorgeous. I think it translated it well. These 2 little dragon imp things are adorable.
They're adorable.
And the game does look super complicated. Like, if Hearthstone is the low bar in terms of complicated, this is much higher on the list with, like, chess and Magic. It looks a lot more complex, which I think is interesting. And so I'm excited to give this a shot, personally.
I mean, of course, I definitely want to actually play it myself. And I was just watching some of the gameplay, and I was just like, okay, well, they run into each other all the time. You have power and toughness, okay, and you have 3 different boards you're playing on.
Sure.
Sure.
Sounds fine.
This game will not succeed and fail based upon the game itself. I don't think. I think that this game will succeed and fail based upon the fact, first of all, that it's available on Steam, which is a huge deal. You know, and coming out with being the clout that Richard Garfield has, and the game design behind it being attached with all of the names. I think that is going to be a much bigger issue of getting players into the game. And then once you get to that point, we'll try to maintain the players by having a reasonable secondary market / economy of one kind or another, and whether or not the game is actually good.
Well, they've already announced there's going to be $1 million tournament for the game.
Great.
Already, because that's what they do. Yeah, I know, right?
I'm
Wizards
ready to go.
Yeah, Wizards, you could give away some more money. It's fine. You could do that too if you wanted. It's all right.
They don't got that Steam money, man. They don't got that Valve dollars.
Well, they would probably have to do more of those goofy buy a box promos to get the money, which y'all don't like, right. And so.
You know, if we do some more of these promos, you can get that $1 million Pro Tour you want. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, on the one hand, $1 million prize tournament as their first ever tournament is sicko. On the other hand, Versus System, right? Ooh. Which also did like the same thing.
Oh, sure.
So we'll see if it works.
Promotion.
You know.
Yeah. But Richard Garfield was also involved in Solforge. Again, Solforge was a game that kind of came and went over the period of a couple years, and they tried desperately, I think, to get people excited about it. And there were lanes for different creatures, and you could power up the creatures by playing like level 2 and level 3, that they would literally change as they went through, got cycled through your deck. They would get more powerful as they kept going, and that was a really cool concept, and they're probably going to play on some of those themes here. It's just interesting in sort of the iteration of it, you know what I mean? Because I was like, oh, I've seen a lot of similar gameplay that way, and this is kind of the result of it, so that's neat.
I wonder what their trophy is going to look like.
I wonder if it's going to be a giant rock with cracks in it, like the
It'll be a piece of the rock from Guts. That would be amazing.
Oh, right, you said Guts. Oh my god.
Do you have it?
Guts. Jesus Christ. The last thing I want to touch on here, and this is because, you know, factors that were involved last year in Hasbro stock going down, turns out were not a very small element of people who may have been upset over silly stuff, but rather Toys R Us is closing. Toys R Us is a absolute mainstay in at least 80s and 90s American culture. Like, as a kid, you knew the theme song. I don't want to grow up. I'm a Toys R Us kid. You know, that's the thing. It's in the brain. I can't ever let that go. My kids will never really know about that because they're going away. Here's what happened. They got bought out by an investment firm. They then got saddled with $300 million worth of debt. They then died. Like, not exactly right next to each other, but when your company is paying $400 million a year in interest and loan payments, that's before anything else happens. You have to get to 400 mil, and then you may be able to pay some people, and then you may be able to make some profit somewhere in the middle of all that. It kills companies dead, and this is a good example of that. And yes, Amazon exists, and there was more competition, but the company was doing just fine until their debt exploded, and then they went straight down.
now where are you going to get all of your backwards capital R's? I don't know where you're going to get them anymore.
Man.
Right,
Yeah, I mean, you gotta get them from Korn concerts, I guess.
Wow.
The fact that Toys R Us is dying is like another in this chapter of Blockbuster going away and all of these pieces of Americana that were really nostalgic touchstones for huge swaths of the Magic playing generation in particular, as people who are in anywhere between early 20s to late 30s, like that sort of area. Toys R Us was a huge part of that, and the fact that it's going away is kind of sad. And the fact that it goes away in this style,
it was just needless. Like, at least Blockbuster was dumb, right? At least you could say Netflix said you can buy us.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
They got by Netflix, so
right. And that's fine. But to me, that's okay.
I remember going to Toys R Us for the Pokemon League back when you had the little passport books and you would get pins for defeating the leader. And, I remember being a kid and subtly leaving clips from the big mailer right before Christmas so that my mom knew what toys I wanted. I would leave one under the placemat at dinner and things like that. And this is a huge blow to our childhoods and things like that. And it's wild to think about. You wonder what's next.
Well, got to adapt and change, or else you get left in the dust. Hello, Magic the Gathering paper card game.
Hello, paper card game with paper things.
Dark.
It did get dark.
Well, for the real skinny, there is an amazing YouTube channel called Company Man. Look up Company Man Toys R Us, and he will absolutely explain all of it to you, and super cool charts and graphs of how they screwed it up. All right, so we're going to have to turn here to the finisher, which begins with our giveaway, because I remembered.
Great.
All right. Congratulations to Phil from Cambridge, Ohio.
Oh,
nice.
Yeah.
Who has won the second Sun Control Challenge deck. Of course, I can't give it to you until it comes out, but when it does, I'll ship it to you. I'll hit you up over email. That's sweet. Thanks, Gleam.io.
Nice.
Yeah, so congratulations to Phil. Thanks for everybody for entering, which was awesome.
I have been to Cambridge.
Nice. Well, there
Cambridge
you go.
is in that weird Appalachia part of Ohio. So,
well, we're going to now officially turn the corner to the finisher. Short episode this week, obviously, since it was a light news cycle. Nothing interesting happening. Oh, God.
Oh, wait.
When it comes to MTG news coming out, we are the lucky bunch. From top stories breaking mere hours before or literally minutes after Magic Mike's, the gravitational pull of our cosmic interference cannot be ignored. And with business trips, vacations, and rehab visits undoubtedly on our horizons, what's the next big news story that will break the internet the next time we take a week off? Aaron?
Well, the big news from the next time I take my leave from the show to treat myself will undoubtedly be Wizards announcing the acquisition of what remains of Toys R Us, specifically the sporting goods department, because no pairing goes better together than Chris Cox and balls.
Wow, can we move on quickly? Oh my God.
Sure. I'll try to help you guys forget about Chris Cox and balls. That's Chris Cox and balls, in case you missed it.
Oh my God.
With the God book issue from New Phyrexia and now the Gosh book issue from Dominaria that the episode is named for, behind us, where huge swaths of spoilers rained down from the heavens, I'm looking forward to when I go on vacation this fall. And the Gee Golly Willikers book comes out when we get all of the cards spoiled from Return to Return to Return to Kamigawa, a set that has not yet, and probably never will be, designed by Wizards of the Coast.
Aww.
Sorry, Evan.
Screw you.
I think we could go back.
Well,
I think we could.
With the announcement of hashtag 2cows, Firesong and Sunspeaker, as the Buy a Box promo and only available as that promo, brand new card frames for Sagas and Legendary cards and all the nostalgia you can cram in your boombox. I fully expect the next time I go to Gamma Gen Con or a Grand Prix for Magic to announce their partnership with Warner Brothers Pictures. Move over, Marvel, and get ready for the release of the most ambitious crossover event in history, Ready Popper 1.
Oh.
Yes, so good. That's fantastic. And ends another episode of Magic Mike's. Thank you for joining us here to discuss all things Magic. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Ruben.
See you next week.
Woo woo! We'll move on to our final slide. I want to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, our co-sponsor, CardHoarder.com, my co-host, Aaron Campbell and Ribbon Wrestler. You guys for watching. I hope you support us at Patreon.com/MagicMikes. Visit our website at MagicMikesPodcast.com that exists thanks to our Patreon supporters. Or follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe, do everything social that tells people we exist. Catch us online at Twitch.tv/MagicMikes, on Twitter at MagicMikesCast, on Reddit at Reddit.com/r/MagicMikes, and Facebook at Facebook.com/MagicMikes. Talk to us privately at MagicMikesPodcast@gmail.com. Follow the audio-only podcast at magicmikespodcast.libsyn.com, or find us on iTunes, or join us here next week, same time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mikes. Good night, everybody.